And welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Around the Bases with Bubba and Mo, episode 18. I am Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at KCBubba. And as always, joined by my co-host, Mo. Mo, how we doing?
Doing well, man. What's going on?
Well, not much. Just another beautiful week of baseball. Let's get right into it, talking about just beautiful things. The Cubs. They're beautifully falling apart at the seams, and you've seen it unravel this morning if you've been paying attention. Jake Arrieta had 7 stolen bases on him last night, and Miggy Montero is one of the worst in baseball at throwing guys out. But to make it fun, Miggy Montero in an interview basically blamed Jake Arrieta. Rizzo comes out and basically says you can't point fingers when you're just as bad, stuff like that, little school kid stuff. A few hours later, Miggy Montero's DFA'd. And then recently, Jake Arrieta's been interviewed, and he didn't hear the whole story. So someone read him Montero's quotes, and he goes, no, can't really argue with him. So the Cubs are just falling apart. Like I was telling someone today that if they were winning, this gets handled internally, and it's not a problem. The fact that they're losing, they're a little sensitive right now, and they're blowing up. What are your thoughts on the Cubbies, who we did cover a little bit last week?
I mean, it's Miggy Montero. I mean, it's his last year on his deal, his 5-year, $60 million deal. He's, at this point, a backup catcher. I mean, he had some decent years in Arizona, which got him the contract that he got. He had a big home run last year in the playoffs. But, I mean, they showed a stat last night. He's allowed 31 stolen bases, played half the games as Contreras, and Contreras is allowed the same amount. And he's thrown out about 23%. So it's not that big of a deal. Arrieta is a straight shooter, so he knows it too. It's clear. I mean, I watched most of that game last night when the Red Sox were in a rain delay, and it was Miggy had no chance of throwing those guys out, but he still isn't great at that. So I'm not saying, look, backup catcher, he's one of the better backup catchers that they have. You wonder if they bring up Schwarber at some point and let him be the backup catcher. Not sure how they want to handle that there. I know they want him to stay in left field as much as possible. But this is I don't consider this falling apart territory for the Cubs. I mean, this guy, he's complained about playing time last year. It was just time for him to go. I mean, like I said, he's done after this year anyway. They weren't probably going to re-sign him. They'll, people are like, oh, Rossi's coming back. He's not coming back either. They'll go get themselves a backup catcher wherever the hell they want for nothing. It will be fine. I mean, it really doesn't matter at this point. Arrieta does have to do a better job keeping runners on, but he knows it, and everyone knows it. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to improve. So now you got Arrieta, who can't hold guys on, and Lester, who really can't hold guys on. The only reason they don't steal as much is because he's a lefty. So I'm not worried about it with the Cubs. I'm not overreacting. This is a backup catcher anyway.
Yeah, he is the backup catcher, and that's very true. He's just one of the better offensively backup catchers you can find in baseball. His numbers have actually been pretty good, and that's why I thought it was funny because Contreras, until like the last week or two, finally started hitting. He wasn't hitting at all, and so it was kind of a pick your poison of what you get. The funny thing is Miggy Montero, as much as a cancer as he's been the last year and a half or so, literally – the Blue Jays have already reached out to him. He'd be a phenomenal fit over Romine with the Yankees in that short porch and right. He's going to make a team very happy that's trying to make a playoff push. And the Cubs called up their number 11 prospect. His name's skipping my mind at the minute. But Schwarber, I just don't see them wanting to have him as a backup unless it's like he catches one day and plays outfield 4 days. Yeah. Given he's a defensive liability in the outfield also. It's just if you bring that bat up, he has to play. So it's interesting because just for the offensive reasons that I liked Miggy Montero, you weren't going to use him as a full-time guy. But this never would have happened last year. Even if Montero says those things, the rest of this never happens. It's very entertaining to see a team that, wears costumes on road trips and does all kinds of like yoga and stuff, literally having little school kid fights right now. It's very entertaining to see.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
next on a little more on the temperament of ball players. Recently, we've seen some guys pimping out some home runs. Extra large bat flips or some different type. Carlos Gomez has had some pretty interesting ones. Yasiel Puig's the target of what got this flowing in my mind. He had a home run and then watched it for a while, and it took him over 30 seconds to round the bases. He took his sweet time cussing at the guys as he crossed home plate, and then a week prior, he was flipping off fans in Cleveland. Some of these guys are just having a lot of fun or just disrespect. Depends on how you view it. That's the point of this. So first, let's start with the home runs. What's your thoughts on guys like we've kind of talked World Baseball Classic of having some fun, but what's too much fun for you?
Probably what Joey Bats did in Atlanta was too much fun when it's like the game is out of hand. But if you're the guy and you're Yasiel Puig and you're hitting a home run in a meaningful at bat like Joey Bats did against Texas in the playoffs a couple of years ago, do what you want. Don't let up the homer. If you don't want him to bat flip, don't let up a homer. And now Sam Dyson is in your neck of the woods, actually pitching okay, but it's one of those things where it's like the old mentality of baseball. Listen, I love baseball. We talk about it all the time about the unwritten rules and about the changes. I'm going to watch it no matter what happens, but don't stop trying to police the game like that, okay? And you'll notice it's a lot of the Cuban, Dominican, Venezuelan guys who do it because that's how they are brought up in baseball in their country, and that's great. It's fun. The Winter League is fun. The fans are all into it, and it's just a great atmosphere to play in that league. And unfortunately, you have guys who just don't like it, and they will get hit because of it. And I forget what I was listening to. I was listening to somebody basically say, I think it was Travis Shaw. It was on I listened to Karavis's podcast, the Boston Section 10 podcast. Travis Shaw, they did an interview, and he basically said, I'm not pimping any home runs because I'm not getting hit by a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. So they just don't think of these things. And whereas some people do, they don't want to get hit. And that goes with the whole Hunter Strickland and Matt Barnes kind of thing too. So I'm fine with it. I love it.
Speaking of bat flip, I put that Obus Shed article out there. Did you see the bat flip of him that they had on the YouTube video in the minor leagues or high school ball?
I haven't seen. I don't think I saw it actually.
Oh man, you have to click on that. It's great because he leads up to why he did it. Because he's such a quiet guy when he plays, but this kid was just talking smack all game long to him, and it was ridiculous. Tight game, biggest rivals. So he gets up late in the game, and the guy's just feeding him fastballs. He's like, I know I can crank him. He takes him oppo, like over the gymnasium in right center field, and there's like the bat flip. It made Joey Bats look small. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. And he's a little like 5'6" dude. It's unbelievable.
I'll have to check it out.
But outside of pimping homers, the one that really gets my attention, because we kind of agree on the home run things, like we really do agree on the home run things. The one that's really interesting, it happened last week. Gerard Dyson of the Seattle Mariners was facing Justin Verlander, who had a no-hitter going. I believe it was like 1 out in the 6th or something, and he laid a bunt down to break up the no-hitter. Now, the 6th inning's one thing. There's still a lot of baseball to be played, but if people remember, like Kurt Schilling back in the day had one in the 9th, I think maybe even 2 outs or something, and some nobody who literally, if you look up his game reports, has never had a bunt hit in his career besides that, lays down like a pop fly bunt that fell in to break up a no-hitter and really pissed Schilling off. Surprise, surprise, he was angry at something. But what are your thoughts on the bunting to break up a no-hitter or a perfect game?
Oh, I was all over it. Like I said, I say all the time in some of these topics, and when it happens live, I could spend all night searching for these tweets about beating him in the head next time. I want to kill this guy. I can't believe he did that. It's the 6th inning, okay? Number one, not that this matters, but Verlander was not going 9 there. He was going to be lucky to get to 7, okay? Because he would have needed 150 pitches to get to 9, so it wasn't happening. Number 2, it's the 6th inning. And you know what happened that inning? They got him out of the game. Well, I can't remember if I think they got him out of the game, and they took the lead, and guess what? They won the game. Okay. Now, if it's the ninth inning and it's a 1-0 game, this is where I my stance would be tough because the game is still in hand. So I think I'd still be okay with it, especially where it's Dyson, where he can get on base with bunt hits. He tries to get on base with bunt hits with his speed. So the people that were going off there were out of their mind and have no clue. Like I literally, like one guy, he was like legit a writer, and I was kind of going after him a little bit, and he basically didn't realize it was the 6th. He thought it was like the 8th. So all this crap that he wrote, all these tweets, and then finally he's like, oh, I thought it was the 8th. I mean, that was a joke that night. The Mariners won the game. It just rubbed me the wrong way. You do anything you can to win a baseball game in the 6th inning. I don't care what's going on with the other pitcher. You do anything you can in the 6th inning.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is 6th inning, and it's a guy that literally uses his legs to get on base. It wasn't Nelson Cruz bunting. It wasn't something inappropriate. Gerard Dyson does that almost every other game anyways. That's what he does. So, yeah. But 9th inning, now it gets interesting. So it's kind of – there's a fine line. I don't know what the exact – I can't pinpoint like what's the out where, percentages change to more favorable chance of getting a no-hitter, all that statistical stuff. But in the 6th inning, that made me laugh so much that people were throwing a fit about that. Because like you said also, Verlander wasn't going the distance, especially something we're going to talk about later that's come out in the last day or two. They definitely were not going to try to throw his arm out for what they need him for, which is not pitching for them. Let's just put it that way. So he was not throwing a no-hitter. But, yeah, pretty interesting stuff taking place the last few weeks in baseball.
Yeah, for sure. I was all fired up with that. But some good news, depending on what you think about it, Freddie Freeman is coming back, which is great. But the Braves are going to play him at third base when he does come back. Bubba, what do you think about this whole situation with their superstar franchise player?
I think it is absolutely horrible. It just makes no sense to me at all. The funny part is it was his idea, though. That's the part that makes me laugh a little bit. Apparently, he did this in high school, played a few innings at third base in high school or something like that. That was the last time he did it. Maybe his early minor leagues. I can't remember what it was. But he's played like 3 or 4 games in his career at third base.
Cool.
Yeah, he sounds like a great guy to have at the hot corner, covering bunts, shifts, bullets down the line, all these things that just sound great. Now, he is a great defender at first base. It's just weird that it came from him. But then while we were getting ready, I pulled up just the Braves page. I didn't go any fancy like Fangraphs or anything like that. But if you just hear me out on this real quick, because this made me laugh that it's this close. So we know Matt Adams is crushing it. And we know that ballpark's made for left-handed power guys like Freeman and Adams. So Freeman's played 37 games. Adams played 35. Freeman has 10 more runs than Adams with 35 to 25, but only 46 to 41 in the hits column, 11 to 8 in the doubles, 14 to 12 in the homers, and Adams has 6 more RBIs with 31 than Freddie Freeman. They're almost identical, which is I did not think it'd be that close. So I guess they're saying they need to bat that bad. The problem is we talk about it all the time is, they're not really contending this year. We thought they'd be a 500 team. They're 37 and 39, so they're about 500. They're 8 games out of the wild card, so I guess Freddie's thinking if we get us both in the lineup, we can make a run. I think this experiment lasts maybe as much as July. And then if they're way out of it, you start bringing prospects up and say, Matt Adams, you either play the outfield or maybe we trade you for someone that needs a left-handed bat, i.e. the Yankees at first base or something, and do something in that direction. Because it's fun for now if they can make a run, but I don't think it's a long-term thing at all.
You don't move Freddie Freeman to third base to facilitate Matt freaking Adams, okay? Sure, having a great year. Cardinals let him go for a reason. He was let go for a reason. He had a nice year in 2013. Really hasn't done anything since. He'll be lucky to get – I'm going to throw this out there. He'll be lucky to get to 20 homers this year. He only needs 7 more. I just think there's something there. I know that it obviously is going to get warmer in Atlanta. It's going to be over 100 every game, whatever it is. You sell high. You go and tell the Yankees, hey, we'll get if Castro's hurt longer than they think, you say, hey, we got Brandon Phillips, we got Matt Adams. Why don't you throw Clint Frazier our way? Now, the Yankees wouldn't do that, but you still go and you make an effort to get one of their prospects. You trade whoever you can. You trade Matt Adams and you package him with whoever you have to get a prospect back. You are not winning this year, although you and me did mention the Braves have a chance to get that wild card, especially with the Rockies faltering a little bit. So you just don't do it, plain and simple.
Yep. No way, no chance. Not happening. But, another team that we thought was dead and gone and should be selling pieces by now, similar to the Braves, was the Kansas City Royals. And, wow, have they made us look good. They are on fire. And they've done it to me very quietly because I haven't noticed it at all. Their month of June's been amazing. They are now 1 game under 500 at 37-38, which is only 2.5 games out of first behind Cleveland. And they're only 2 games out of the wild card. Mo, what are your thoughts on the resurging Royals?
They're 15-8 in June without Duffy. Soler just got called up. Roster Resource has it a platoon with Moss. They need to let him play every day. He mashed in AAA. Absolutely mashed, okay? 324, 10 homers. You need to let him play every day. They're middle of the pack with their starter and bullpen ERA. Couple of sneaky bullpen guys. Alexander, he's a ground ball Zach Britton threat. I mean, he doesn't strike as many guys out, but guy's got 65% ground ball rates, having a nice year. Herrera hasn't been great, but I'd be interested to see Royals Twitter. I got to pay attention to Royals Twitter a little bit more. I'm sure these guys want them to, buy, but it's just not the right decision. This is not going to be good if they don't trade a few guys to really, really rebuild. That farm system is terrible. Terrible. So, unless you think you're going to sign Hosmer and Moustakas and Kane and Herrera or 3 of 4 or 2 of 4, then you sell. You have to sell. But Dayton Moore, he's in a tough situation here. I would hope. Now, I don't want to throw Royals fans under the bus here. Voting all their guys into the All-Star game a couple years ago. Not saying they don't know baseball, but I would hope that if they do sell, that they understand it's for the greater good. And I hope they sell just so that Royals Twitter blows up and I can laugh at it, because they need to understand that they need to rebuild, or else we're talking a 5 to 7 year process to get back to where they were a few years back.
Yeah, it's let's speak first off the All-Star game. They're at it again because somehow Eric Hosmer's ahead of like Yonder Alonso and Justin Smoke and other guys. So they're at it again there. But I was reading an article on MLB.com from one of their top writers today, and they're saying that most likely they're not going to sell because they know how great the postseason is and the revenue it can bring to a city, and they already have to rebuild anyways. So they want to go for one last push at October. And I'm sitting there going, oh, my God, that's already the mindset. If any team needs a losing streak worse than the Royals, I don't know who they are. They need like a 7-game losing streak right now to just say, okay, this was fun. Let's move on. Because, yeah, it's all fine and dandy, but we talked about it before, and you can look at the standings again. Almost every team, like the farthest out is the 7 games for the White Sox in their own division. But if you do division or wild card, the farthest deficit by any team in the American League is 7 games right now. So in theory, if the Royals just have one bad, like half a week, you've gone from 2 games out of the wild card to like 5 or 6. There's all kinds of things that can go wrong. So you got to jump a bunch of teams, basically what I'm saying. It's not just a 1 or 2 team thing. And because we know the Indians are going to get theirs. They're going to pull away eventually. And the Twins are doing whatever the Twins are doing right now, which is surprising to a lot of us. But the Royals, as fun as it is to watch those kids play, and it's cool and all, if they want to stay contending, you need to start making moves now.
Now, look, you never know what will happen in a 1-game playoff, but what revenue when they lose that 1-game playoff, what revenue do they get? They're not going to be home. They're going to be on the road, so they're not going to get revenue. It's just, I understand, get to the tournament, hope it happens. It's just the wrong move. It puts them back 5 to 7 years. Wrong move.
Yep.
Couple small moves this week by some, mid to lower revenue and payroll teams. The Brewers claimed Stephen Vogt off waivers from the A's. Not surprising that the A's, waived him. He's just really having not a good year, power-wise and whatnot. And then the Rays went and got Echeverria. Again, I get names wrong. I don't really care what you people think. You know who I'm talking about. These are the moves that these teams need to make, and they don't really give up a lot. What does this do for your Rays and Wisconsin's Brewers, for the rest of the season?
Well, I like how you phrase that, my Rays, because I was telling a buddy of mine, Yancey, who was a diehard Rays fan, I said, Yancey, I need to know which throwback hat to get because the Giant season's over and they'll always be my number 1, but I need someone to root for because it's not even July yet. And if it wasn't for fantasy baseball, this would be worthless to me. But these are huge moves on the fact that they're not big names. The biggest thing to me is it shows that they're going for it. There's no reason for the Rays to trade for anybody if they don't want to compete, basically. Even though they have Willy Adames in the minors, we'll get to him, but now it gives you a chance to let him continue to develop, and you're not in a rush. They lost Miller. The Miller injury might be worse than expected. Same with Duffy's. So now you just slide Beckham over to second. You have a Gold Glove caliber shortstop, which is huge for a young pitching staff to have that defense behind him. He bats 9th. Hopefully he hits a little. I think it's big. It's a statement. It's not, doesn't mean they're going to win it. Doesn't mean they're going to make the playoffs. But it's a statement saying, hey, we're not just going to, fire sale. They might keep Archer now. They might do a lot of weird stuff we didn't think was going to happen. So there's that. And then same for the Brewers because they're in full rebuild mode. And for the A's, I love the fact that they're doing this. They did it with Plouffe, Vogt, and you're going to see with more guys. I love how they're just saying, you know what? We don't have time for you. We got Maxwell to come catch. We have, Healy to play full-time at third. Chapman came up, got hurt. Olsen, tons of young kids in Oakland. But it allows a team like Milwaukee to get a Vogt who goes well because they had 2 right-handed bats platooning, which, that's kind of pointless. But now you got Pena, young players playing great, but now you got the lefty and Vogt starting the night on Wednesday night. It just shows both these teams are in it, and it'll be really interesting to see if, Milwaukee has played above 500 ball every month this season. They've been in first place in the Central for over a month now. If anybody would have told you that at the beginning of the year that come, the end of June, Milwaukee be leading the Central, would you believe them? Because I wouldn't. So it's pretty crazy what they're doing, and I think it's fun, at least as a fan perspective, that you still have that part in your head going, yeah, they're probably not going to make it. But it's cool knowing that our team that usually just kind of says, screw it, this is what we are, we're just going to take it. No, we're not going to take it this year. We're actually going to make an attempt to make something of this. And that's kind of cool to see, especially for the Brewers because they have more weapons they can call up to help. Rays not as much. They have some, but even if the Brewers continue to make a run, they got resources in the minors that can make it interesting.
When I'm not really worried about the Brewers. I mean, that was an easy move to make. When the Rays trade Adames, Honeywell, or De Leon, or even Bowers, when they trade one of those guys, then we'll know that they're legit. Okay, they've played 4 more games than the Yankees. They've won the same amount of games. 4 in the loss column is what they have right now. But when they trade one of those guys, then I'll take them seriously in terms of, okay, they want to win. And, maybe they don't, because if you look at it, I mean, there's not many areas. I mean, of course, the bullpen, they could always improve. But Faria has been very good. Odorizzi is what he is. Cobb, took a no-hitter late yesterday. Snell's going to start tonight. He's been very good in AAA. And they're doing this with Kiermaier, hurt, and Andriese got hurt. Hopefully, maybe Boxberger can come back at some point. That would improve their bullpen. So maybe they don't need to do anything in terms of the guys they have there, but they could improve if they really wanted to go for it and put you into the good graces of our prediction podcast.
Yeah, it works for me. Speaking of another team that this hurts to say is absolutely on fire, and they can really attribute almost all of this, in my opinion, because I'm not going to give too much credit here, but they can attribute all of it to Cody Bellinger, because this kid is just saying he's good at baseball isn't even correct. It's just crazy what he's doing. I can't wait for the critics when he has a slump, because every player slumps. That's going to be something special. But they are now a half game behind the Astros for the best record in baseball. The Astros are 52-26, and the Doyers are 52-27. So they have one more loss. They played one more game. They have a loss. The last, I don't have their 30-day number in front of me, but it's since Bellinger's been called up, I think they're like 40-something and 15.
23-7 last 30, 17-3 last 20.
Yeah, these numbers are crazy. They've won 10-plus in a row, and they're doing it for the most part, most nights, relatively easily. We talked about last podcast that the big series was Rockies at Dodgers, and the Rockies couldn't get swept. Well, they got swept, and now they might get swept by the Giants. So the Rockies, we can talk about them maybe next week because something might be going backwards. But the Dodgers, I hate to say it. There's an article that came out on Fangraphs saying the Dodgers are the new Cubs. What are your thoughts, Mo?
Yeah, and new Cubs, meaning last year the Cubs were just far and away the best team in the whole league, and that's what the Dodgers are doing this year. And they're doing it, obviously Bellinger has been amazing. I mean, I think he has more homers than singles right now. And I'm actually, what's funny is, and I talked about it last week, and I always joke on Twitter, no one cares about your fantasy leagues, but I don't really care I'm going to keep tweeting it if I want to. But he would be my sixth keeper right now if I chose that way, or I could give Mookie. I'm currently deciding how I can get like a 1-for-4 trade and really just push my team over the top for a championship. But that's neither here nor there. You're right. He's going to slump at some point. What the Dodgers are doing Wood was hurt. Hill was hurt and still isn't pitching well. Maeda was hurt / the bullpen. Ryu was hurt and not doing great. Now McCarthy's on the DL. They're circumventing that 10-day DL. That's what they're doing. All right. And they're doing it perfectly. Absolutely perfectly. Obviously the, Urias injury is terrible. We're not going to see him till 2019 probably. I mean, that's just awful. So that kind of hurt them right there. But, think of the dead money right now. Ethier, Gonzalez, Kyle Crawford is whatever. He's not going to play baseball anymore. But think of the dead money that they have. I know all the dead money the Red Sox have. They are just crushing it. Like I said, Turner was hurt. Forsythe has been terrible. But with all those guys hurt / terrible, and they're still doing it, hey, you said your Rays. It's my World Series pick. This is my Dodgers. Okay, so if something happens with the Red Sox, they're my Dodgers. I wish I bet them preseason, but that's neither here nor there. Dave Roberts doing a tremendous job. It'd be interesting to see, what Friedman does at the deadline here. Whether he improves that bullpen, which I think he probably would. Maybe go after a Verlander, although I caution him there because he hasn't been great. But it's that trade deadline for the Dodgers will be a very interesting situation.
Yeah. It's crazy, like you said, what they've been able to pull off. And it was like the end of May podcast, they were around 500, and we were like, okay, they'll do their thing eventually. I don't know about you, but I didn't see them doing it like this. But it's their division. They're running away with it. And honestly, the way the National League's playing out, you almost got to think it's them and the Nats. And I like the Dodgers as much as that sucks to say right now.
Yep, it is what it is. So now we get to your Giants. The Rosenthal piece, I don't know if folks saw it on the Giants and Melanson warm-up situations and clubhouse turmoil. And now we get the news today at 2:45 Eastern that Melanson is on the DL with an elbow injury. I know I mentioned that he could be a guy that the Giants could trade, at the deadline. Now, elbow injury does not sound good for him or for you guys for this season and maybe beyond. Talk about the Rosenthal piece and kind of talk about, maybe just overall your Giants, and we'll continue to talk about them.
Yeah, I guess this is my payback for David Price news. It's the Rosenthal piece is one of the. I know he's a respected. I gotta phrase this properly. I know he's a respected. I don't know if journalist is the right word. Just media impact or influence. That piece, and this could have been on any team in baseball, but that piece was almost like TMZ smut. It was unbelievable, the garbage that came out of that thing, just stirring up shit. It's like you already have a team that's losing. Now let's write a piece on everything that's going bad so everybody and their mom can see about it. Like, seriously, do you ever want access to that clubhouse again? Like, what the hell are you doing with that piece? He comes out and says that when Melanson showed up, he stopped the relief pitching stretching sessions as always was at X amount of time before a game. We always did these stretches and blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? The guys that did those stretches aren't there anymore. This is a new bullpen. Closers have different mindsets. They're different freaks of individuals. If Melanson doesn't want to do it, why can't the 8 other guys or whoever go do it themselves? Do they need Melanson to hold their hand? That was just ridiculous. I don't understand how that has any impact on the Giants winning or losing. The next part that made me really laugh, out of nowhere, he brings up that the locker room's dead, which they've always been quiet outside of a few like Latin players and Pence's one postseason. They've always been quiet. When Posey and Bumgarner are your clubhouse leaders, they're quiet. That's what they do. But when he brings up the fact that the team is missing Angel Pagan, who everybody hated, but they missed him because he brought the rest of the team together, why even bring up Angel Pagan? He's not even in baseball. He took the year off to be with his family. Where does this have anything to do with the Giants winning and losing baseball games? I read that piece and I tried to hold every comment back because everyone just thinks it's going to be, oh, it's this Giants fan that's pissed. It has nothing to do with that. Reading that article, he's literally just saying things. If he would have said Kimbrel shows up and now the team's not doing this and, Pedroia's gone and Big Papi's gone, they're all happy because they actually really did hate Big Papi. But if you look at the Giants, they all gathered around Pagan every time you saw him like a big brother. I don't understand any of this. I'll get to the injury in a minute, but did you have anything else on that piece? Because it just seemed lazy and out of place to me.
Yeah, I think the whole funny thing that you mentioned is the whole bullpen stretching thing where, well, the bullpen sucks, so maybe they needed to change the time they stretched. Melanson's been pretty good, so maybe they just need to change that. But, yeah, I seem like a weird piece to write when this is the worst season they've had in a long time.
Yeah, wouldn't you – where were these articles when they were winning 3 World Series? I never saw these pieces at all. It's just it's really odd that in the middle of the baseball season, is news that slow? Is this fake news? Is Trump behind it? What do we have going on? Did CNN write this? I have no idea what's going on right now.
Stick to sports.
But, yeah, I just get blindsided me, but it is funny if you see a lot of the reactions out there. not just the Giants having to, say the right things, but a lot of writers, even on the Giants beat writers, they've all kind of made a stance against Ken Rosenthal. Next time he brings that little bow tie, I don't care what charity he's for, into that stadium for a Fox game, it might be interesting because the fans will not forget this one. This piece pissed a lot of people off, not just fans, but everybody. So that'll be interesting. Now on to Melanson. First off, good news today. Our Korean brethren who made his debut today, had his first career home run and his first career hit. So there's that for us. But he should have been playing a long time ago. Melanson, back to the DL, same elbow injury he had earlier this year. As we mentioned, during that injury, he's had Tommy John before. He's had elbow problems. Last week we mentioned how he was a trade piece, which actually, once you mentioned it, I kept thinking and thinking. I liked the idea behind it. It's going to be tough to trade a guy with a guy can't pitch, and he might have a serious injury. It's just weird because last night he had a 1-2-3 ninth, looked the best he's looked in a long time. And then this report came out of nowhere to me. So I don't know. Not good. That's all I can say. Not good. Let's talk some trade talks besides Melanson, who's not getting traded probably. Sonny Gray, who everyone was hating on because he sucked. He's pitched really darn good the last, I'd say, like 4 out of 5 starts or something. He's been outstanding, looking a lot closer, like I say, like closer to that Sonny Gray we all remember, and would make for a nice 3rd or 4th starter in a ton of rotations, if not a number 2. And there's some teams really starting to make some noise here, and we know Billy Beane's been a guy that'll make a trade, not waiting until the deadline. He will if he has to, but remember, Samardzija went early. If the price is right, he is there. And we got teams like the Astros, who we've known all along. We've mentioned that name. The Cubs are now interested. We talked about the Cubs' horrible rotation, or not horrible, struggling rotation last week. The Yankees are interested because I don't blame them. Pineda's starting to regress. What's CC really going to do all year? And the one that I really wanted to mention, hails in Boston, the Red Sox, who, between injuries and just inconsistencies, they just picked up Doug Fister. So the options are there. Now, the rumors I've heard is Rafael Devers would have to be involved, and I know you're not a fan of that. So what are your thoughts on Sonny Gray's trade and specifically the Boston angle of things?
Let me start with that Boston angle. Fake news. Okay, fake news. It's not happening. It just isn't. If Dombrowski does this, I'm not saying I dislike Sonny Gray, but if Dombrowski does this and trades Devers, if he can somehow trade Chavez as the front line, I might go with that because this is the first time he's had a really, really good year. He just got promoted to Double-A. He's a sleeper prospect for you guys to watch out for him, Michael Chavez. All you have left is Devers and Groom and Sam Travis. So I just don't see it being realistic. Plus, the Fister thing, Rodriguez is going to be back in 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. So he's going to be back. Now you have Sale, and I'm going in order here, okay? I'm going in order. You have Sale, you have Erod, you have Porcello, who will turn it around, okay? He will. He will get that sinker figured out. Trust me, okay? Then you have, God, why the hell can I? Now I'm blanking out here. Then you have Price, who I'm just waiting for it. I really am just waiting for it because his walks are up. So his control is terrible. His command is terrible. And, of course, Drew Pomeranz. So I would think if the playoffs started tomorrow and we needed 4 starters, I think Price would be the odd man out. Whether they have the balls to do that, I don't know. But that's what I would do because he just doesn't have it. Surgery is down the road. I'm sticking to my guns there. You don't go from like 1.5 walks per 9 to 4 something and not have arm troubles. It just doesn't happen. I don't think that. So I got that out of the way. I got my Red Sox part out of the way. I think Houston makes a lot of sense, obviously. They've gotten some nice stuff from Paulino's been okay. Martis had a quality starter too. And then Peacock's been like a revelation coming out of the bullpen. He's been amazing for them. he's kind of saved them a bit. They need a starter, and Sonny Gray's the guy. You know, Billy Beane's going to go and try to get whatever he can for him. That's going to be his trade chip along with Yonder Alonso. I think Houston's in play. I think definitely the Cubs are in play. I think I'm not sure the Diamondbacks have enough to go get him. I think that could be a sleeper play, but I don't think they have enough in terms of their farm system. So I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's not the Red Sox. I don't think the Yankees do it. I mean, they could surprise me, but I think Brian Cashman's a smart guy. I think he knows what he has in that team. So I think it's definitely, and depending on the Salazar situation, the Indians could hop in there too, because, they may be looking at a window here that we don't really see, even though they've got young guys. Encarnacion's not getting any younger. Santana probably going to be gone next year. Kipnis, etc. So that could be another one. But I think you're right. I think it's Astros. I think it's Cubs that will probably be the play for Sonny Gray.
I just want to mention something that's a little interesting to me is the Yankees, who we keep saying, even last week we basically said your season's over. We keep saying don't sell. I mean, don't buy. You need to keep these youngsters because your rebuild is rebuilding nicely. You're ahead of schedule. We've said this a ton of times. So now you got this report coming out. They're interested in Sonny Gray. Well, obviously, if you're getting Sonny Gray, you're going to have to get something with a little bit of value. There's common sense behind this. Now, what I'm thinking is I'm going to take us slightly off the rails, but not far. The rumors came out today that the Marlins are shopping Prado and out of nowhere to the surprise of me, Justin Bour. I thought Bour was young enough and powerful enough to maybe be a part of their core. Apparently not. And the Yankees were looking at both. Prado could play third base, platoon with Headley. They definitely need that left-handed power first baseman because Bird looks like the report came out, the cortisone shot didn't even do anything for his back. He's that bad. So that surprised me. Now, going back to Sonny Gray, now say they don't get the third baseman or if they want to go balls out, the A's are also rumored to be shopping Yonder Alonso and Jed Lowry right now. Either one of those guys, Lowry could play third, and we know what Yonder can do. Can you imagine Yonder in that ballpark? He might double his home runs just in the second half. I'm exaggerating, but kind of not. It could be crazy what he could do there. So if they're going to make a move, what I'm trying to say, do you think they should just go for broke if they're going to do it? Because one move is going to set them back a ton already, in my opinion. So why not go for it all then?
No, I think they really can't go for it all. I think Lowry, Yonder aren't going to take as much to get, in my opinion, as Sonny Gray will. So I think those are moves that can be made. Again, we'll talk about in the next segment, but I don't think they should go for broke there. I just don't think that they can win, the World Series this year. You get in the playoffs, you never know. Severino could continue to pitch like he's pitching, but again, maybe some sort of innings limit there. You don't want to really throw him out there for the whole season. So I'm of the mindset that the Yankees they shouldn't go for it now. They should be going for it maybe next year, the year after, for sure, with that free agency after 2018.
Yeah.
We'll continue the trade talk here, Bubba. I mean, MLB Trade Rumors came out with the top 50 deadline, candidates for 2017. There's, quite a few names on there, obviously, that everyone will know and that everyone will have heard us talk about before. The headliners, just to give you the top 5 real quick. David Robinson, talked about him. JD Martinez, a little sneaky one right there. Neshek, Jed Lowry, who we just talked about, and Quintana, who has finally got on a roll here. They really, really talked about the Mets, and the Tigers are ready to make deals. The Tigers have way more to trade than the Mets. I mean, Bubba, what do you think about this list? And, other than the obvious ones that we talked about with, David Robinson and Quintana, who do you think maybe that some teams could really, really go after here? And maybe give me where JD Martinez is going to end up.
Yeah, JD the one that really stands out to me because we know how talented he is. I am blanking now. I believe he's a free agent after this year, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, so he's just a rental. And, if people haven't figured out yet, I'm not a fan of rentals unless you can get them cheaper than you should, in my opinion, because that's a way of depleting your system stupidly really quickly. But JD is interesting because he's going to have to play the outfield unless the team needs the DH, but he's too young to play DH. Cleveland could always, but you're not going to trade in division. It's a tough one to me. I'll think about it some more if you got one, but who do you got JD going to?
No, I think JD is, I know it's a rental, but I think that's the guy that could put you over the top.
The Dodgers.
For a World Series. Yeah, the Dodgers. I mean, Haywood's hurt for the Cubs, so they're playing Almora out there. So the Cubs could go a different direction, even though I think starting pitching's their number one. I think definitely the Dodgers. Again, the Diamondbacks kind of come to my head a little bit, but do they? I think they might have enough to get him because, I don't think the Tigers are going to be looking for. They're obviously going to take the best offer, but I don't think they're going to take. We're not talking to use Astros as an example. We're not talking a Kyle Tucker, maybe not even a Derek Fisher type to get him. I think one interesting thing could be the Red Sox because Hanley's been so bad that you could slide JD right into that DH spot for 3 months. There's your power guy that you've been missing. And I don't think it would take Devers. And I don't think it would take Groom. It may take Sam Travis. And I think the window that you have where, this is one of the 3 years that we're talking with the Red Sox. You're going to have Xander coming up in those 3 years. You're going to have Mookie coming up. Right after that, Sale will be up. Hopefully Price will be gone after next year, like I've talked about many times. So this is a 3-year window, provided, whatever. I think that's a sneaky one for JD Martinez.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. And he won't cost as much, like you're saying, like these other moves. So that is a very good look. I wanted to ask you about Quintana because we know how good he can be. He's been amazing this last, 5 or 6 starts, just really, really good. The team that popped out of nowhere, the Atlanta Braves are trying to trade for Jose Quintana. What are your thoughts on it?
Love it. Because he's got 3 years left. So that's perfect for them. I mean, they're 37-39 right now.
Yep. I know. It came out of nowhere to me, and then I'm like, wow, that actually – because their farm system's loaded. They can afford to lose a couple of players. That's not a problem at all. It was interesting to me. And you know what? I'm not condoning this, but if they had to get rid of one of their middle infield prospects, most likely it won't be Swanson. It might be Albies, which I'd hate. I would hate. I'm not saying do this. If you had to, you could still rent Phillips for another year or two at a relatively cheap price. He's consistently productive. He's doing it again this year, and you have so many guys in your system that'll be ready in another year or two anyways. It's not the end of the world for you.
Yeah, I love it. I would love that for the Braves. I mean, it's the perfect guy for you to kind of accelerate, especially where your division sucks and Washington is a 2-year window here. It's the perfect guy. And, they could probably re-sign him too after the 3 years are up. So it's the perfect guy for them to go get. It's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, talking about one of the Mets, he's on the list, number 7 on this list. Addison Reed, I think, is an extremely sneaky move. That's a guy the Nats could go after if they don't want to pay the price for Robertson. Reed has shown to be a really good closer this year. In the past, he's had mixed results. He had one phenomenal season in Arizona, and then he's had some hiccups. But this year, he's looked really, really good. Do you like that as option 1B outside of, say, Robertson?
Yeah, the whole, he hasn't been a closer, primarily for the Mets, obviously. And, I know the White Sox tried to do it when he was there too. But I definitely like it 1B. I don't know whether whether the Mets would trade him to the Nationals in the division. Not that it really matters, but that's something to watch out for. The one that I wanted to throw out, and I actually tweeted it a couple weeks ago, is for the Red Sox. Is I want them to go get Neshek. I think his price tag would be very low. He's going to be a free agent after this season. The Phillies, we'll talk about them in a second. They're obviously rebuilding hard, and they're terrible. So that would be the guy that I want Davey Deals, to make, and let's see if we can ruin another bullpen guy that we trade for that isn't obvious other than Kimbrel. But that would be the guy that I would want the Red Sox to go after. But yeah, Addison Reed, I think he'd be 1B. I think maybe, if you look at number 8, I mentioned Brad Hand before, but Justin Wilson has another year of arbitration. So maybe so he's got 2 years. Just like David Robinson, but Justin Wilson will be cheaper money. Maybe the Nationals can get him for less than they can for David Robinson.
Yeah, I like that. And if you just want other rentals, Ryan Matson and Sean Doolittle are righty-lefty options, and David Phelps and A.J. Ramos from the Marlins. All 4 are decent to very serviceable relievers that, even if it's not for closer duties, those are names they're going to see get traded for sure to contenders. Like, you always see contending teams grab another reliever or two, and those are sneaky guys that are going to be very, very helpful for a very nice, cheap price tag. I like them a lot.
For sure.
We could do this all day, and we'll keep revisiting this list, an updated list as time goes on. But one more, I just saw it. One more Tigers. They got Ian Kinsler and Justin Upton. Well, if you think JD is going where he's going, wherever he doesn't go, Upton probably can go to the other places. Where do you see Kinsler potentially going?
Well, he's got that no trade clause for 10 teams. So if there's one of those 10 teams, you'd have to get through to that. Only $10 million next year. He's not getting any younger. Forsythe hasn't worked out for the Dodgers, but I don't think they're going to give up on him too quickly. I don't think the Cubs would be in play. That's an interesting one. Astros, Indians all set. Red Sox all set unless you decide, hey, we can get Kinsler and he can move to third base. So there's not many places that jump out to me that I see that Kinsler could go with teams in contention. If someone really wanted to go for it, maybe the Brewers would be that team to go after Kinsler. But I don't see him. I don't really see them trading him. I think they're going to hang on to him.
Okay. Yeah, we'll revisit this some more. We'll get into Justin Verlander more as more news comes out, because that could go all kinds of places. And there's no need to speculate there because he has to waive his clause too. But he did come out today and say he is open to trades if that's what the team needs. So basically, I think he's fed up with the losing too. Let's talk one more thing. We've talked rebuilds quite a bit on this podcast, and especially early in the season. One team was the Philadelphia Phillies, and we both, said they weren't going to, win the division, but we figured they could maybe finish 3rd or 4th behind the Mets and contend with the Braves. And we figured the Marlins would be in last. Well, the Phillies have been dreadful, 25-51. Very, very bad. What kind of hope would you like to give them on their rebuild?
All right, let's put it out there. And I put this out there to you late. Figured we talk about the Phillies, and because we're not just a Red Sox and Giants podcast. We talk about everybody. So let's check in on you Phillies people. It's not good. It really isn't. We mentioned, before the season that, they're doing it the right way. They made a couple nice signings. I mentioned that it was a good chance. It was a good chance taken on Buchholz. Unfortunately, he got hurt right away. Thought he'd be better in the NL and they could flip him for something. Same with Michael Saunders. They've already let him go. Hendrick has been really good in terms of average. Not much pop there, but he's I got to watch him in the Red Sox series. I mean, he was on base, it felt like every single time, stealing bases and whatnot. So they could have flipped him for something. And now he's hurt again. So that's not good. And then their prospects. I'm not, in terms of, if you look at the stats, J.P. Crawford is just not having a great year. He's batting like 200. So they're waiting to bring him up, but he's just the peripherals say that he's not going to be great. Stolen bases have gone down in the last couple of years. I love prospects. I'm not a, how do you say it? I'm not a guy that can go look at him and say this guy's going to be this, he's going to project to be that. For the most part, it's the stats that I look at, and it's everything I read on the guy. So, I wish I was a lot better with that. Mickey Moniak was the number 1 pick last year. He's 19 years old. It's a couple years away, so can't really project there. He's 27 before the season on the prospect list, so he should be a good player, should be their franchise player down the road. Jorge Alfaro, he's been up, with the team. He's having a decent year. That's the guy that should be up soon. So that's something to watch out there. He was number 32. Another guy, sleeper one, was Scott Kingery. He all of a sudden decided that he's a home run hitter. Second baseman, not great defensively, just promoted to AAA. So I think that's someone to watch out for. If he continues his power surge in AAA, he could be up this end of this season. It could help your fantasy teams if they give him every day at bats. But he's come out of nowhere in terms of the power scene. So I just covered there. They're terrible in the standings, obviously. They decided to give McCann an extension, a month into the season for 2 years. And the prospects aren't really there. And then the guys that they could have dealt at the deadline aren't great. Benoit hasn't been great. Closer situation's a mess. Nishik is really the only guy now that Kendrick's hurt that they can deal. And then the worst part about this, Phillies fans, the player that a couple years ago we thought was their future, Michael Franco, is awful. He can't hit for the last 2 years. That is very, very concerning. The good thing about the Phillies is it is a pretty big market. They will spend money eventually. So in that 2018 season, if they can figure this out a little bit, they'll be able to spend some money there. But, this team, not a lot of hope here at the deadline. They better hope that Kendrick can get healthy quick and then get something for him, and they get something for Nishik. But it's really, really poor. I know that's probably not how they planned it at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, definitely not how they planned it. A couple other guys to think about with them, because if you look at their AAA team, the Lehigh Valley Pigs, or whatever, Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs,
good name.
They are loaded in just talent. They might not be producing to their prospects' numbers, but they're one of the better teams in AAA right now in the International League. A couple other outfielders. They have Nick Williams, Roman Quinn, and Dylan Cousins are all pretty talented guys. They're a year, maybe late this year, sometime next year, could be somewhat options to help. I believe Quinn's been up at one time. I'm not completely sure there. But Cousins has some nice pop that's developing. But another guy we mentioned recently, the first baseman, Rhys Hoskins, who's just crushing the baseball, and there's no reason that Tommy Joseph should be in his way right now. That one just doesn't make sense to me. I'm guessing if they don't trade him, then they'll bring him up. Maybe they're trying to showcase him to trade. I don't know. And last but not least, if you want hope, people, go check out the throwbacks on the top 30 prospect page of the Iron Pigs. Nice, sweet baby blues. You got something to look forward to, at least.
Okay. All right.
So I had to try to lighten the mood. All right, let's talk a couple prospects like we do every week. The one I will be breaking down briefly is Tampa Bay Rays shortstop Willy Adames, the one I mentioned earlier talking Rays. One of their stud shortstops. They got him in the David Price trade to the Tigers when he was like 18. He's 21 now in AAA. Started out the year really, really poorly. He was hitting 210 in 20 April games, 245 in May, 2 homers and 21 RBIs at that point in the season. People were kind of getting worried, didn't know if he could handle it. Well, he's young, people. Don't panic. If he's talented, he's talented. Come June, in 21 June games, he's hitting 382 with 2 more homers. He's not going to be a big homer guy. 11 ribbies, and he walked 14 times for 484 on base, which is really, really impressive from a 21-year-old, especially if people think about it, a Latin American 21-year-old, because like he's out of the Dominican Republic, and we know they don't have a ton of discipline when it comes to the plate. At least a lot of them don't think Vladdy Guerrero ring a bell to anybody. So that's really impressive. The bat's starting to turn. The glove still needs some work. He's committed 17 errors this year, which is worst among all shortstops in the International League. So he's got that to work on, and that's why the Echeverria trade's great, because A, it buys him more time to develop, and B, he can go and maybe get called up and learn from a Gold Glove shortstop. Lots to like there. And last but not least, if you just look at his numbers throughout all the minors, he's about a 270 to 280 hitter. He's got power. He's actually had decent power in the minors. Like a 20 home run guy, 15 to 20 homer guy. Or no, that's doubles. My bad. Yeah, so I thought he was about a 10 homer max guy. He's not going to have a ton, but he's going to score a lot of runs, and he's going to use a little bit of speed out there. Not a ton, but he's there for his glove for now, and they're hoping the power develops. But he's one of their top prospects. And before the trade, I would have said you would have saw him this year, but maybe not now.
Yeah, I like him a lot. We'll see what they do with him. The second one, the guy just got called up, Tyler Wade, with the Yankees. Castro's hurt. They got third base issues, but this guy can run. I mean, he's stolen, over the years, 22, 33, 27, 24 bases. Doesn't have much pop. He maxes out at about 5 homers. He has 5 homers this year, so that's kind of a plus. And he gets on base. He, about 10 to 11% walk rate. So he's going to be starting at second base tonight for the Yankees while Castro's out. So hopefully, he can kind of do something there. Sort of a fringe prospect, not a fringe prospect, but, not completely a top 100 guy. But something to watch out for the next 10 days while Castro's out. Tyler Wade, he can kind of play all over the diamond for the Yankees.
It's a good one.
Yeah. For the DL news, do it real quick. Aaron Hicks, the Yankees, we talked about it last week, 3 to 4 weeks, strain right oblique. It just said Castro's out with a hamstring injury. They don't think it's too serious, but it will give our guy Wade a chance here. And then the A's had Pinder, hamstring injury. And then Bubba brought up Matt Chapman in our prospect segment a few episodes ago, and he got a chance and then had this weird knee injury. He had an infection in the left knee. He spent 4 nights in the hospital getting treatment for it. That was a scary situation. He's starting to run again. So hopefully he won't be too long. But thank God that's it with the AL injuries this week. I had a lot last week, but Bubba's got a lot this week with the NL.
Yeah, I have way too many. This is ridiculous looking at this list. And it kicks off with Zach Wheeler. Surprise, a Mets pitcher, everybody. Bicep tendonitis. They're saying it's minor. He's thrown a bullpen yesterday or today. If all goes well, they're expecting him back this weekend. Then again, it's the Mets, so he probably won't go well, and they'll still rush him back, and he'll have a worse injury come Sunday. So I just keep that in mind with Zach Wheeler. It's the same team I didn't put it on my list, but Michael Conforto's got a messed up hand that he can barely grip a bat right now. But instead of using the 10-day DL, we're just going to call him day to day and see what happens. The Mets, baby. Jason Hayward of your Cubbies to the DL, left hand injury, kind of cut his hand, but it's healing well. They're hoping he'd be back come Thursday when the 10 days are up, but it's still a little sore when he swings. He can take batting practice, but it's not like with full comfort, so they're not going to rush him back maybe this weekend, beginning of next week with him. I'll get to my next one at the end because I want to talk about that a little deeper. Brandon McCarthy to the DL with knee tendonitis. A reoccurring injury he's been having. It popped up on the 27th against the Cubs. It's one of those that if it was an emergency, he'd probably still be pitching, but they play that roulette so well, like you mentioned earlier, the DL roulette, that they're going to let him rest. If anything, it keeps one of their better pitchers that's been consistent all year healthier. And the bright side, it's a leg injury to his knee, so it's not to his throwing arm at all, so you don't have to worry about structurally anything wrong there. He should be back in limited time. Dexter Fowler to the DL with the right heel spur. Apparently it's an injury he's had off and on for years, and it's finally got bad enough where he actually has to go see a podiatrist. You think you do this in the off season, but I don't know. Apparently the beaches of Cancun are more important or something. But there's no timetable for his return because they don't know how long it's going to take to heal him if they'll have to have surgery. Remember, Taijuan Walker had bone spurs last year around his heel, and that's why people said he pitched so bad because he couldn't land on his foot, and that's why people are thinking Dexter Fowler's having like knee injuries and other injuries in his legs because he's not landing on his feet properly. So something to think about there. Carlos Gonzalez, Mr. struggling on the DL with a shoulder injury. No timetable at all for his return. He's only batting .221, 6 homers, 20 ribbies on the season. Yeah, they can let him think about things. Tyler Anderson for those same Rockies to the DL, the left knee injury. He re-injured it in his first start back. He's going to have arthroscopic knee surgery, miss at least 4 weeks as long as nothing goes wrong. He should be back within a month, or a little over a month. Yangervis Solarte of the Padres, the disabled with an oblique injury. He was starting to catch fire again for the Padres, and now he's got the oblique injury, and oblique injuries are crazy and impossible to determine the timetable, so they don't even know when he's going to be back because those muscles, you don't know when they're going to heal, but they're saying at least a month. They're predicting it's going to be a while with Solarte. And Eduardo Nunez of the Gigantes, hamstring injury, supposed to be back this weekend if all goes well. Last but not least, I wanted to mention Julio Urias. This is a sad one for us fans out there of the Los Angeles Dodgers. The 20-year-old has to have major shoulder surgery. He already had it, actually. He underwent successful left anterior capsule surgery. Basically, his shoulder cap had to get repaired, which when you think about that, just say that out loud and think about how nasty that sounds. Tommy John's a tendon. This is your shoulder cap. This is like bones and like tendons up there on your shoulder. A lot of pitchers that have, well, it's not a major surgery because usually when you're this far along, it happens to older guys and it's just not worth it. He's younger, so that helps him. He's going to be out at least 12 to 14 months. They should take their sweet time with him. And this might be like a 2-year thing. Most pitchers honestly don't come back, or they don't come back anywhere close to where they were. Johan Santana had it. He tried to come back and pitch, but it pretty much stopped his career. Mark Pryor had it, and we know how he ended his career. One of the only ones that I can really remember that, I'm not going to say he was successful, but he had a career after it, is Chris Young. Just got released by the Royals. He wasn't overpowering, but he actually made something of his career after it. But this is one of those injuries that really does end a lot of players' careers. So it's a serious injury. It's bad when people say you'd rather have Tommy John surgery than the anterior capsule surgery. So it sucks because he's one of the fun ones in baseball, and hopefully since he's so young, it'll help. Some are crediting it to his increased velocity. They say they see it in pitchers that try to ramp it up more and more. He did that a lot this past year. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But, Urias out for quite some time.
And on to our final segment. I'm not going to do the Robert Flores ESPN what to watch for. Well, I did it anyway. But we got 3 series here we're going to talk about a little bit. Red Sox at the Blue Jays. I'm going to lead this one, Bubba. I'm going to take this one off. If you look at the potential matchups for this, first one is Estrada Fister. This over-under could be 10.5, 11. Fister got really lucky. He pitched, okay. And then Farrell left him in for a few pitches too many, and we still got lucky and got out of it somehow. Estrada's been a hot mess in June. He has been awful. So, one thing to watch out for here is, like I talked about earlier a little bit, Hanley Ramirez has been terrible. Absolutely terrible. You have to wonder, he's sitting out again tonight, whether they just throw him on a fake DL and let him kind of rest a little bit and let Chris Young, Sam Travis, Mitch Moreland. Mitch Moreland's playing with like a broken toe right now, by the way, too. So screw Hanley. I'm getting sick of Hanley. That's going to be another maybe segment that we do instead of we're going to add Hanley to the price segment because I'm getting tired of this guy, okay? I'm really getting tired of him. If Moreland can play with a broken toe, sack up and play, all right? So Estrada Fister, that one should be a lot of runs for your Friday DFS. I know you'll probably talk about it on Quick Hits. Liriano Sale should be pretty good. The Red Sox, if you look it up, they have not faced, I think they have not faced lefties this season very often. I think it's the least amount of games that they've faced a lefty starter. So, look out for that. That could be a sneaky, sneaky play for Liriano there. And then Biagini versus Pomeranz. Pomeranz has been great. He's been really, really great. Last night's start, they had a 75-minute delay. and he came back and pitched, fine. So he only went 5 innings. He only went 5 innings, 83 pitches. That's a plus for him because normally it's about 104 after 5. So big series for the Red Sox on the road. Especially, we just need to bury the Blue Jays here. Got to bury the Blue Jays. You somehow win that first one, we have a chance at a sweep there. So that first game, I'll be watching that game, obviously, but I'm going to be watching it a little bit closer to see how Fister, if he can just keep us in the game and get to about 5-6 innings, that's key for the Boston Red Sox at the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, it's a big series just for the fact that the Blue Jays are getting back in it. So in Toronto is always an interesting environment. It's not Fenway, of course, and if the Blue Jays can take 2 out of 3, like we said, everything's so tight in the American League. Right now, they're only 6.5 out, 3.5 out of the wild card. You gain a game now and you keep chipping away. It could be a big series come at the end of the season. Yankees at Astros. I think this is outstanding, just for the fact that this could. I know you'll appreciate this comment. Shatter the hopes and dreams of the Yankees fans this weekend.
Ooh,
this could finish them. This could finish them. The bad part is I'm looking at MLB.com and they have no idea who's pitching this weekend, so I feel like a complete moron right now. But I don't know if you have a better link. Fill me in on that.
I'll give it to you real quick from Roster Resource. They got McCullers versus Pineda, Martez versus Montgomery, which is interesting, and then Fires versus Severino. So 3 decent pitching matchups. At least if you look at the stats for the last couple months or last month or so, because Fires has turned it on a bit.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. And I'm looking forward to just seeing, like, we keep wanting to see if the Astros can keep doing it every time, they get pressed. Are they going to keep making it happen, basically? And so far, so good, even with all the injuries. And you got McCullers back. The kids are pitching well. Eventually, you'll get Keuchel back someday, which would be huge. But really intrigued. Oh, yeah, here we go, the starting grid. Thank you for telling me Roster Resources. So you said Houston. There we go. So McCullers Friday, Martez Saturday, Fires. Yeah, Fires is pitching much, much better. And the Martez would be the question mark to me. I'd say Houston should be in charge of 2 of the 3 of those games if all goes well. And the Yankees can't afford to blow this. But Severino versus Fires is that. I wish Severino's facing McCullers, but big series in Houston.
Yeah, I actually disagree. I actually think that the Yankees have 2 of the 3, and I would put, if it wasn't for the home runs, Pineda's pitched okay, had a rough outing last start, but I would actually give 2 of the 3 of the Yankees. I like Montgomery a lot. He pitched well again last night. Granted, it was against the White Sox, but the White Sox have crushed lefties this year. But he pitched really well, and then not last night, Severino, it was 2 nights ago with Montgomery. But Martez first, feel like that's his first start in a tough environment at Yankee Stadium on a Saturday. So we'll see if his control.
It's in Houston.
Oh, my fault. It's in Houston. Never mind. But I still give Montgomery the edge there.
Yeah, I can agree with that one. Montgomery's been awesome.
Yeah. Last one, and I'll go over a couple things that I've seen. Colorado just lost again. I know this will probably be out tomorrow, but Colorado just lost again and got swept by the Giants.
Worst team in baseball.
Well, worst record, but they've got some talent. You know that. So they are at the Diamondbacks. We talked about them last week at the Dodgers. Just don't get swept. Well, guess what they did? They got swept because they've lost 8 straight now after winning 6 straight. They get Gray back on Friday. John Gray versus Robbie Ray. It's another game. Hopefully, I'll be home for and I'll be watching, because that they need Gray to pitch well, because their rotation's been bleh. Okay, it's been not great. Greinke Chatwood on Saturday. Chatwood's been good on the road, but we're talking Arizona here, so this is Coors Light. Okay, and then Taijuan Walker against Marquez. So you have to look at it and think that the Diamondbacks have if you had to pick, they control every one of these games in terms of the starter. Cargo's hurt. Can Mark Reynolds keep it up? Arenado's going to be fine. Trevor Story's terrible. Blackman's fine. So the Rockies are kind of scuffling a little bit here, Bubba.
Yeah, and this is huge because all the pitching matchups, all of them are really, really good. But you almost have to give a slight tick to the D-backs in like every start. Like you could justify Gray if he's 100% back. You just don't know that. But Gray versus Ray, that's like MLB Network better have that game on Friday night. That's outstanding. But Greinke's been great, and Walker is really, really good. He pitched great again last night, and then it's like the 6th inning, he gave up a couple runs. But it's a great matchup, and this is one of those things similar, like I said, about the Jays. If Arizona takes 2 out of 3 or sweeps the Rockies, this is the kind of stuff, the statement stuff, and they'll extend a 4-game wild card lead to a 4.5 right now, 7.5 game wild card lead. And if you think about it, right now, the Rockies are 4 games behind the D-backs, and the Cubs are 6.5 behind the D-backs. Last week or the week before, we were saying it was pretty much Arizona, Colorado was a lock. Now, just say, for instance, Milwaukee holds on and runs the table. Now the Cubs could leapfrog the Rockies, and they have nothing. Atlanta's only 4 games behind Colorado. Colorado gets swept this weekend. Atlanta's right behind them for the second wild card. Like, I'm telling you, a bad weekend right now, it opens the door for a lot of teams, and the trade market gets that much more fun. So this weekend is big when it comes to things. And if for some reason it is just Arizona and Colorado that both win the wild card, pretty sure you'd rather play it in Arizona than Colorado if you're the Diamondbacks.
For sure. I mean, it's tough times. Granted, it's really just been the last 10 for the Rockies, obviously, because they've lost 8 straight. They really just need to just play 500 ball, and they should be fine unless someone makes a run. So, yeah, it's another big series for them. They just can't get swept again.
Yeah, and it's the one thing, as we said, that was surprising to us is they've been dominating on the road, and this is the road, and they've lost 6 straight on it. So we kind of had a feeling this might happen at some point in the season, that they'd struggle on the road, but they need to fix it soon. And if they lost 3 more in Arizona to go 0-9 on a road trip on the West Coast, that would, against the NL West to top it off, that'd be tough. That'd be a tough one to swallow.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, that's all we have for episode 18, unless you have anything else.
Well, I do want to mention, we our Twitter handle Aournd Bases Pod. You've been doing a good job. I've thrown a few videos in there. We've got up followers, more people are listening, so it's great. We enjoy doing it, whether you listen or not. But it's great that people are listening and following us. But we had that Orlando Arcia play that was unbelievable, and that kind of blew off a little bit. Don't want to toot my own horn here. I saw it. I was at a bar and I saw it, and I said, that play is unbelievable. I got to get it out there real quick. I know it's mostly homers, but 237 retweets and 516 favorites. I know I'm a nerd, but it's okay. And then we had Sam Decker sort of quoted too, so that brought a lot of traffic to the account. So that was kind of funny. We both were texting, but that was thanks for the following, and just keep giving us stuff to do. Send us questions, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Just if you guys want anything talked about, let us know, because we'll cover it one way or another. And we just like talking baseball. So check it out. But thanks for listening. And don't forget, you can check the Aournd the Bases pod at Aournd the Bases pod. You can check out Mo at Boston_Mo. And I am at BDintric. But this was Aournd the Bases, episode 18. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you guys next week.
See ya.